When I'm headed into the backcountry, I want to make sure I have all of the essential gear. As a former Royal Marines Commando, we learned that we would carry everything on our back so that when we got to the fight, we had all of the supplies that we needed. And that's the mentality I've taken into my recreational camping trips. I don't want to take too much of this gear that I'm not going to use, but I want to get to camp and I want to have all the essential equipment so I can have nice coffee, I've got a nice camp chair, and I can split my firewood. That's why I carry a heavy pack, and today I'm going to show you what's in it. So I'm Darren from Defy Adventures, and as I mentioned, we're going to have a look at what I take on a backcountry camping trip. So as you can see here, I've got the Savotta backpack. This is a Finnish military grade backpack, and the reason I like it so much is it's got so many opportunities to accessorize with different pockets, and it allows me to get the most amount of gear. I believe this is a 60 to 80 litre pack. The 60 litre means as it's set now in the main compartment, it's 60 litres. This is a roll top, which means we can make this quite a lot higher. All right, and then we've got all the additional pockets. So as I'm gonna start to break down the backpack, first thing I'm gonna pull out here is my axe. This is a Bison axe. I've just got this recently, German axe, really, really good for splitting firewood. It's only 2 pounds, all right, so it's not too heavy, and that's gonna allow me to basically, find a good piece of dead wood, make some good firewood, some kindling, and just enjoy the time when I'm at camp. From here then, if I just start off at the pockets and I kind of go through each one, so my upper pocket is gonna be a very simple rain protector for my backpack, all right? So if it starts to rain, I'm gonna be able to grab that really quickly, make sure all my stuff inside is nice and waterproof. On the other side, the other pocket is where I'm gonna have my gloves and usually my hat if I'm not wearing it. All right, again, I want to be able to grab these quickly. I also want a pair of gloves because when I'm splitting firewood and things around campsite, all right, this is where I could potentially, get some problems in my hands. As I've spent more and more time in the backcountry, one thing that's really hard to keep clean is your hands, and then when you start to keep them dirty and you're getting little splinters in, that's where then they start to get infected if you're out for a long period of time. So it's important to just have a pair of gloves. My side pockets here, all right, this is the stuff that I'm going to be using the most often. So if I'm coming to a stop, all right, and we're having a rest, the first thing that I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be thinking about food and water. Okay, that's one of our, or two of our essential survival topics, right? So I've got my mug, all right, this is definitely not a collapsible, foldable, packable mug, but I love drinking coffee out of this thing. All right, so I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of space there. The next thing here is my Katadyn. This is actually a new one that I've just got. This is pocket water filtration. Okay, so the benefit of this one is it's going to get all the viruses, all the bacteria, all the sediment out of your water. I've tried cheaper versions. They've broke on me after a couple uses. This one, $600 version. I'm gonna be testing this over the next few months, and I'll probably get a video out there showing my experience with it. So that's my water filtration. And so if I stop at a stream or a river or a lake or something, I can get some water. From there, my Jetboiler, okay, my trusty Jetboiler. All right, this piece of equipment for me is essential. All right, so here we've basically got inside of it, it stores our gas. All right, it stores our actual cooking mechanism, and then there's also a coffee filtration system inside as well. All right, so you can screw this up together. All right, that's gonna be your tripod for your gas. Okay, this is the Java model. So here you have a built-in French press, all right? So you can make some really good coffee on the go. Important to me, I'm a big coffee drinker. I want to get to either my rest stop or my campsite and have the ability to make some good coffee. So that's basically the side pouch there. I've also got my camp knife in there as well. Usually when I get to camp, okay, that's just going to attach onto my little belt loop, all right, so that I've got that available. But I don't want to be hiking around with this, all right? It's going to flop around, it's going to catch on things. So that just usually stays in an accessible pocket. Other things that could be in this side is more food, okay? So I would have a lot more of my food if I'm going for longer trips, but most of my packed meals, okay, they're gonna be in that front pocket. Again, this is stuff that's easy accessible. I don't wanna go into that main compartment if I can help it until I'm at actual camp and I'm starting to put my tent up and things like that, all right? So the meals that I usually carry at the moment are these Happy Yak One. This is actually a Canadian company. All right, we like this stuff a lot. All right, so we've got a bunch of them. All right, freeze-dried stuff. So that means I can just make my boiled water, put my water in the pack there, and I've just got food relatively quickly within 10 minutes, and I've got a real good meal. Good, so moving on to the other side then, this is where I'm gonna have my warm gear and my waterproof gear, all right? So again, not wanting to go into the pack if I can help it, all right? If I'm stopping and I'm taking a break to make for lunch or something like that, then the first thing, the essential thing to do is make sure you keep yourself warm. You might be hot when you're hiking, but it could be a little chilly outside. All right, so a down jacket is always gonna be the best thing. You can throw that on. This is a rab goose feather, and that's just gonna keep you warm straight away, and you'll take it off before you set off, and that'll help to regulate the temperature. The other thing I've got in here is a rain jacket, all right? This is something I ended up getting to keep after my time in the military, so I've got a rain jacket there, and then I've also got a pair of trousers as well. Both of these will be very weather dependent, all right? So I might not take the rain gear if I know it's a hot summer's day, because even if I did get wet and it started raining, I might not be that bothered about it. But right now we're in March in Canada. I'm going on a trip next week, and I'm definitely gonna be taking this gear, all right? Because I don't wanna be getting wet and cold. My saw, all right? My Silky Boy saw, all right? This is a nice little piece of equipment that's nice and foldable, all right? But it's just gonna allow me to process wood a lot better, all right? I'm gonna get, again, fire is important to me. I like sitting next to a nice campfire, and the more ability I have to process wood, all right, it's just gonna mean that experience is a lot nicer. So that's my side pockets done. So most of my on-the-go stuff is all gonna be able to be easily accessed from there. The other two I have is I have 2 pockets on my hip belt here. Okay, so these are gonna carry some little items, all right? So I've got spoon, obviously, for my food. I've got compass, all right? It's gonna be a lot of navigating or potential to navigate. I'll always take a hard copy map. Don't like relying on GPSs and things like that. 1, because it helps keep my skills up, but 2, that stuff's battery powered, it breaks, all right? It might get wet, whatever, okay? Head torch, all right, super important at nighttime to be able to see around your campsite. And then fire starting kit, all right? So the simple thing, don't ever go out without one of these, even though I can start fire in many different ways. A simple lighter just means that if all else fails, you're depleted, you're tired, all right? You don't need to rely on things like fire starter sticks, which are great, all right? But they do require a little bit of skill sometimes. You have to process wood more finely, get those shavings, things like that. I love doing that. I'll do that more often than not. But at the same time, if it comes to a survival situation, I want to have that on hand. Other fire starting material that I'll take with me, I'll take some kind of tinder, whether that be cotton wool that's been soaked in some kind of flammable liquid, all right, so that you can easily get fire going very quickly. I tend to try to go as natural as possible. I'll make my own fire starting stuff in the backcountry if I have the time and I have the capability, all right? You never know what's gonna happen when you're out on the trail. So that's that pocket. The other side then is mainly going to be for things like food, bars and stuff that's easily accessible, okay? I also have stored in here is a power bank. That'll generally go more deeper into the pack because I'm not gonna be getting that until I'm at campsite. This is just something that if I'm going on a longer trip, I want to make sure I can charge my head torch. All right, I really like to record all my hikes so that I can see distances, elevations, all right, and use that for future planning. So just having something like that if you're going for more than sort of 3 or 4 days. So going into the main compartment now, what I like about this really is the fact that it is a top flap. It means that I can just kind of stuff gear in here that I don't want to go in my pack. So this is just any kind of camp shoes, all right? So these are just some basic earth runners, all right? This is probably more summertime. I would have some potential water shoes in there if I wanted something a bit more robust, or I could also have some like camp slippers, right? Get to camp, first thing I want to do is get my boots off, all right? Usually hiking anywhere between 10 and 20 kilometers at a minimum. I want to make sure my feet are nice, right? In this top zip then, so this is a bit of miscellaneous type items, all right? Ziploc bags, okay? So once I finish this meal, all right, this is gonna be an empty bag. I ain't putting this in the fire, all right? That's not good for the environment, all right? I'm gonna put it in a thing, I'm gonna pack it out, all right? That's just something that as a good camper, you do, okay? We have bears in Canada, so we need to hang our food, all right? So a simple bear hang with a carabiner on, all right, is gonna allow me to get that food out of the way, up high, and not have potential of those coming to find and take my food. Tape, I always take some form of tape, all right? You never know what you need to patch up, if it's your rainproof gear, your tent, even your down jacket, your warm jacket. If you get a bit of a hole in it, all right, just sticking a bit of tape on there stops all the feathers coming out and keeps it usable. Wet wipe, dirty in the field, right? So this is gonna be packed out with me in here, all right? If I go to the bathroom, all right, I wanna make sure I'm nice and clean, all right? Just opportunities to clean some of the gear. And then finally in the top flap is some paracord. So I use this for things like washing lines, maybe I do a bit of bushcraft and I start to try and build some things and just generally have some fun with it, all right? But having some paracord, always good. You can add that to your tent as well if you need it. It also turns into shoelaces. If your shoelaces break, it can be a bit of a disaster. Now we're going into the main compartment. So everything in here generally is going to be in order of usage. So when I get to the campsite, I want to be able to set my tent up. So there's two ways that I can do that. Okay, I usually have my tent sort of at the bottom here, all right, underneath in that main compartment, or I could just have it sitting on the top, depending on how I pack my pack, which is something we'll go into in further videos as well. But in the main compartment here, this is a bit of an oversized one. I probably wouldn't take something quite as big as this if I was going for short days, but in here, we've got medical kit, we've got toothbrush, toothpaste, biodegradable soap, towels, meds in there as well, ibuprofen, any vitamins, anything like that that I like to take with me. This is what I call my camp clothing. When I take gear with me, I'll generally hike in something like this. So I've got a pair of trousers on, either a long sleeve or a short sleeve t-shirt. If it's chilly, I'll hike in a thin fleece like this, or this will be top flapped, ready to go when I stop. So then when I get to camp, my routine is, and this is again something that I've taken with me from the military, is I'm gonna get out of these clothes as soon as I've set camp up. I'm gonna get into some warm clothes or some dry clothes at least, because I sweat quite a lot in the summer, and then in the winter, it could be wet just from the hiking, right? So we've got thermals, all right? I'll generally sleep in something like this. Usually I'll have the amount of socks per day, all right? There is no need to not set off with a fresh pair of socks. Look after your feet when you're on the trail. $20, $30 pair of socks, definitely worth it. And then I'll usually have a full new outfit. So another set of t-shirt and another set of trousers, lightweight ones. These can be worn around camp as a nice clean pair, all right? I'll generally wash when I get to camp as well, so jump in the lake if there is one. And you'll notice that almost everything is in some kind of dry sack, all right? So even though we have, you know, a pretty decent bag from a waterproof standpoint, and we have our waterproof cover as well, all right? On my last trip, I actually did fall off a beaver dam and my bag got fully submerged, but nothing inside was wet because of this and these canoe sacks. Then we're going into our tent system. So what I like about the Sea to Summit variation is everything comes in separate bags, so you can really split it up. So we're gonna have 4 different setups here. We're gonna have our tent foot, all right, so this is gonna protect the bottom of the tent. We're gonna have our rain fly, our main tent compartment with our pegs, and then our poles are here, all right? So I could put my poles on the outside. I could also distribute, this is a 2-man tent, so if there's 2 people on a trip, all right, we can distribute that between us, all right, and then not the same person has got all of the things, but it's also relatively small. It's only about 3.5 pounds, so it's not a bad weight option either. Pillow, good night's sleep. This is a good quality Sea to Summit pillow. Big fan of the Sea to Summit brand for some of their camping and tent setup stuff. All right, that'll usually live inside my sleeping bag when I'm traveling, so during the night, I'll just get in my bag and the pillow will just need to be blown up and it's done. So talking about sleeping bag, okay, we've got, again, another Sea to Summit sleeping bag. This is a -9-degree bag. I also have a reactor liner that goes inside that'll make it like a -16 bag. But in the summer, I just open this out to a quilt. So I don't need different bags for different occasions. I won't have it in this stuff sack, all right? When you have everything in stuff sacks, it's great, but it also creates a lot of dead room in your pack. You can have that along the bottom and it'll fill the whole bottom of the pack. I'm inclined, even when I go by myself, I take a double sleeping pad, okay? And the reason for a double sleeping pad, this is really large, right? It's not that heavy, it takes up a lot of room, but a double sleeping pad just allows you to sleep a hell of a lot better than those single ones that are literally as wide as my hips, which means my shoulders end up being over the top. So definitely not a weight saving thing, definitely not a space saving thing, but from a comfort perspective, a double sleeping pad, even when you're by yourself, is good. It just means you're not gonna roll off that pad in the middle, and it's nice and secure, and it's nice and comfortable. And the final piece, absolute luxury item, is a camp chair. You definitely do not need this, but if you get to camp and you can just sit down to take your boots off, not on the wet ground, all right? It was a recent trip I went on, 3 buddies, 2 of them had chairs, 1 of them didn't, and the guy who didn't was not happy, all right? I generally don't like to have stuff on the outside of my pack. This Savotta pack setup, which we'll probably do a video on the Savotta pack because I really like it, just works really well with this, all right? And having a camp chair that you can just easily, quickly deploy all right, and get yourself a nice seat is a luxury I'm willing to carry. Pretty much everything there is what I would take on a normal trip. The only exceptions is more food, all right? There'll usually be a lot more food that goes in those front pockets, as I mentioned, in forms of bars, maybe nuts and seeds and gels. This is not the how to get your pack under 10 pounds kind of thing. This is how to get to camp, have all the gear that you need to use, be comfortable, enjoy the time. And the other thing to think as well is I really enjoy the challenge of carrying a heavy pack. When this is loaded up with food for 3 or 4 days, this is about 70 pounds. I enjoy carrying that weight over the time, making it a bit more challenging. There's nothing really that I would like to get rid of or like to not have. Let me know something that I missed. What is it that you like to take with you? Please like, subscribe, and help the channel grow and get more content out for you guys.